Hello and welcome. It's been a while. So, I'm in a pretty good mood today, guys, because I finally found the retro Ghostbuster figures. Well, my friend found them and he bought them for me, which is cool. But they're in my city. So, in a celebration of that, I decided to do a little something for everyone because I'm in a good mood. What haven't I done in a while that people are always asking me to do? Another comic class. So I've actually been reading a little bit the last few weeks. So I'm going to go try to arc a whole comic book 101 during the course of the summer. So I had to start with this particular story. A story that gave us this pretty sweet figure here. It's a Deadpool Symbiote figure, which is very neat. I love the 80s-esque of this. Looks great. So you probably already guessed it now. Actually in the title too, I guess. We are doing Deadpool Back in Black 101. So sit down, stick around, and as always, enjoy. So, Deadpool Back in Black, a 5-part miniseries, which is interesting because in order to actually get into the comic, and you kind of gotta rewrite history a little bit, because we know, and you've seen from my previous 101 classes, from Venom 101, that the Venom Symbiote is acquired by Eddie Brock after Spider-Man removes it in the church. And Spider-Man actually acquires it during the Secret Wars, which was in 1984. So what they do with Back in Black is they change a few little things, or not change, they added on saying that this was never before seen before, Secret Wars type thing. So they kind of rewrite history, and the history is that initially, before Spider-Man gets the suit in Secret Wars, Wade Wilson, Deadpool, actually gets to it first. So he kind of gets it on him and realizes, oh shit, this is alive, and takes it off immediately. And then Spider-Man, Peter Parker, walks in needing new threads, and then the rest is history for him acquiring the costume and what we know now. Except there's one other little deviation in this book. It's the whole church scene when Spider-Man finally uses the church bells in order to remove the symbiote, and the symbiote saves Spider-Man's life. It doesn't immediately go down through the cracks of the church and finds Eddie Brock. What it does instead is it stays in the church for a little bit, is fed by this guy at the church, a worker at the church. So it's fed hard candy by the dude at the church, and then this crew of aliens appears and tries to retrieve it because they are actually, they have a bounty out on the symbiote, so they're looking for it. They're looking for the Klyntar, which is the name of the race of the symbiotes. So the Klyntar Symbiote is what we'll refer to it as for this 101. So they're looking for it. So you have, I'm trying to remember who the characters were again. There was Killer Thrill, Cold War, and is it Gus? I was right, Gus. So Gus, Cold War, Killer Thrill are searching for the symbiote. So basically the symbiote escapes from the church because it's being attacked, and it finds its way to a familiar host, and since Wade wore it for like 5 seconds, it finds Wade Wilson not too far away, and then merges with him, and they kind of become the precursor, the pre-Venom Venom. Post-Spider-Man, pre-Eddie Brock Venom. So the first few issues of the Back in Black series is basically, well, the Deadpool Back in Black series, is basically Wade acquiring a costume and then helping out like the Power Pack kids and fighting these different aliens and basically learning more about the costume, you know, getting to twip. He's all excited because he can twip. And it's kind of like, it's just him learning the powers of the costume. But every time that Spider-Man is mentioned, the suit gets very irritated. And you see the venom coming out of it. Like, it no longer looks like Deadpool. It's like it grows the teeth, the tentacles, and all that. Because it still hates Spider-Man immensely. And so Deadpool learns about the symbiote. Can't really understand why he hates Spider-Man so much. He then meets up with Black Cat, because Black Cat thinks that Deadpool is Spider-Man because of the look of the suit. Deadpool kind of tries to tell her, but doesn't really do a good job at it. She helps him out. They go looking for crime, and they fight against the bounty hunters who are looking for the costume, Killer Thrill and her gang. And so it's interesting because the first few issues, it's just basically Wade getting used to the suit, Wade fighting off the bounty hunters. And we learned that the bounty hunters were actually sent by the Collector, because the Collector wants a Klyntar Symbiote in his collection. Interestingly enough. Can't blame him, he wants everything. So, you know, it just makes sense. So it really gets interesting, or more so interesting, because in the beginning, like, they're fighting these aliens, and then he teams up with Black Cat, and then they're fighting the aliens, and they're also fighting the white rabbit as well, which is a whole interesting character in her own right. So that's all neat, but then we get into the real cool stuff. Issue 4 and 5 are more cool, because in issue 4, look at that. Oh, does that remind you of Kraven's Last Hunt? So Kraven finds Deadpool thinking he is the Spider. So it's kind of a precursor to the Last Hunt, because it is a Last Hunt in Kraven's mind, because he found Deadpool and thinks it's Spider-Man. So his whole rage-infused fight that he wants to have and that he has with Spider-Man later on and happens kind of before, because he's fighting Deadpool, which is interesting. So Kraven fights Deadpool, beats him, seriously beats him up really badly, actually stops a lion from attacking Deadpool when he's in the zoo, because he wants Deadpool, he wants to catch the prey to be his. He actually takes the lion off of Deadpool and says, "No, it's my prey." He wants Spider-Man bad, but doesn't realize that Deadpool is not Spider-Man. But then, towards the end of the fight, when Wade finally reveals his face, Kraven realizes, like, hey, this isn't Spider-Man at all. Who is this guy? And then Deadpool does something that's super interesting. The symbiote does something that's super interesting, because the symbiote realizes that Kraven hates Spider-Man as much as he does. So Deadpool kind of tries to tell Kraven, you know, hey, why don't you lay off of Spider-Man? You know, he's a good guy. You know, like, maybe you've got him all wrong. And then the symbiote just like completely takes over and is like, no, Spider-Man is garbage. Garbage! Garbage. Like, the symbiote is having none of that. Like, he wants Kraven to know that Spider-Man is garbage. So then, as the symbiote has taken over Deadpool completely and is now speaking with Kraven, it is enraged. Enraged! It wants Kraven to get the job done. But it's interesting what it tells him. It's almost as if it's foreshadowing the future, what's going to happen later on. And it's neat, because it actually does. I'm going to read what the symbiote tells Kraven, because I think it's important, and I want to get it right, because it is so cool. It's probably one of the coolest parts of the book. He says, "You want to hunt the spider, old man? You want to prove you're better than him? Get to it. You ain't got much time left. I can tell. I can smell it on you. All those roots and berries you use to keep your old heart pumping, your muscles working, they ain't gonna be enough for much longer." Basically telling him, you're dying. You're going to die. So he's foreshadowing that before it actually happens. Like, because we know this happens in Amazing during Kraven's Last Hunt. He says, so finish him quick. Forget the darts and the knives, which is what Kraven, normally uses to hunt. You want to kill Spider-Man? Do something he won't expect. Next time, try a gun. Whoa! Holy shit! Holy shit! He's basically telling him what to do. This is exactly what happens later on. He's basically giving him all the info he needs to fight him. And then Kraven thinks after that the symbiote is the spirit of the hunter. And he's like, spirit of the hunter, soul of the spider, yes, now I see. You have taken his form, O spirit, taken the spider's shape to tell me what must be done. I will hunt him one last time. I will defeat him. And you, as you have shown me, I will become the spider. So swear, Kraven the Hunter. Holy shit, he's insane. But it explains everything that happens during Kraven's Last Hunt. And if you don't know about Kraven's Last Hunt, you can actually view my old video, Kraven's Last Hunt 101. Supported and provided by DCompose. Also Venom 101 if you want to learn more about the beginning of Venom. Before this. So last we move on, and the last issue, issue 5, which is equally cool, it's because the bounty hunters actually capture Spider-Man in order to lure the symbiote in, the Klyntar, because they know it had bonded to Spider-Man previously. It had been watching, because the collector knows everything. And yeah, so so the symbiote is like going nuts because it can seek revenge on Spider-Man. So it falls for the trap and then ends up fighting the bounty hunters. It ate one of their heads off earlier, and it ate Killer Thrill's arm as well. So very hungry symbiote. And in the end, Wade basically separates himself from the symbiote and defends Spider-Man, who's pretty much out cold, and just, the symbiote could have killed him, but Wade kind of separates and says, hey, if we're still going to be friends, you can't touch Spider-Man, blah, blah, blah. And so the symbiote is like, okay, fine, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm just going to take off now. So Wade saves Spider-Man, and the symbiote separates from Wade because Wade doesn't have the rage that it has against Peter Parker. Symbiote actually makes its way back to the church. Something I'm not completely clear on in this book is because the church was on fire when the aliens first attacked. And now it goes back to a church. Whether it is the same church or not, I am unsure. But it goes to a church. Could be a different church. Could be the same church, although the other church was on fire, which is kind of weird. I don't know how that whole thing works out in the Marvel continuity. Because the church is very specific in the original story of Venom. So, but let's just say hypothetically it is the same church and the fire didn't destroy it and all that stuff. Wade goes to the church and just looks at it from outside, kind of like chaperoning over the symbiote. And then this dude comes in looking down on his luck and contemplating what he wants to do, which we know is suicide because the person is Eddie Brock. And that's why he went to the church in order to try to pray away the thoughts of suicide that he had, because his life was going to shit because Spidey kind of outed his story. So Wade tells the dude, hey, what you're looking for might be inside there, inside the church. And Eddie's kind of like, okay, sooner or later, you know, I gotta follow through on something. I gotta get something right. So I goes inside the church. And the rest is history. So, it was an interesting read. I hope you enjoyed the 101 class. Like I said, the cool stuff was, the Craven stuff was awesome. That was probably the coolest stuff that I found in the whole story. Because he basically gives him all the hints as to how to hunt him. Which is neat, because we all know that's what Craven does in the end. Figure is very cool as well. I love this. I love this look here. It's beautiful. Look at that. Oh my God, it's awesome. Deadpool face, and with the symbiote raging out face. So very neat. So yeah, we're gonna do a few 101s during the summer. It's all gonna culminate to something. So there's a reason why I picked the Back in Black story. So, hope you enjoyed. Until next time, guys, take care. Later.